So, should we cross over to the Californian desert?
Yes.
Get our kinky boots on, pump our boobs up,
Yeah.
and let's discuss this film.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is a film which ostensibly it opens with the three girls go-go dancing and men leering at them.
Yes.
And we have to say, right off from the off, the girls are statuesque. They've got massive boobs. And they wear tops, which really accentuate their boobs, don't they?
And their figure in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That opening shot, there's an opening kind of monologue that talks about violence. So it's very, from the outset, we can tell this is a film about violence. But then it's highly sexualized with these, in the first shot, the women being very feminine in kind of see-through clothes, negligee kind of things, shaking their assets, etc. Shots of the men shouting at them, being very, very aggressive.
Leering at them.
So it's all kind of established at the moment that the women are feminine, dancing around, jiggling for the pleasure of the men who are really, really aggressive and violent. So that's what I interpreted it as. We're going to get this film about male violence on women.
And male gaze.
The male gaze.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Very quickly, that's turned on its head.
Yeah.
Because these women in this movie are allowed to do things which are usually the preserve of men. So we get, for example, them racing cars.
Yeah.
I love all the shots of them in the car against static sky, doing that kind of thing of moving as you will. But really, only men are allowed to do this. But these women are car chasers, car racers in the desert. They don't pay for their petrol. They run off. They scatter from the garage without paying. They dive into the water fully clothed. We get a wet cat fight. They chicken run, where they're racing each other, or they're coming towards each other until one of them bottles it and then has to leave. They're basically behaving as men.
Yes.
And it is super refreshing. And later on, we'll see Vala, who is the leader of the three.
Yes.
Using her sexuality in a very male way. She seduces one of the sons in the farm. We could have been something, she says to him. Yeah, they are quite aggressively male while still being very, very womanly in their appearance.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, so it's a real conflict. It's a kind of a real visual conflict. What are they trying to say? Is it an exploitation movie at this point, because the women are, portrayed very voluptuously, their boobs, like you say, really pushed up and out. We're encouraged to view these women as sexual beings, but not necessarily sexual objects. They're not being used or abused by men. They're not therefore, they're obviously therefore meant to look at, but it feels as though they've very much got their own agency in this. So on the surface, it looks like an exploitation movie, and I'm sure critics will go down that road with it. But what I saw, looking at it through modern eyes, and probably a queer lens as well, I have to say, was these three statuesque women who dressed how they wanted, who behaved how they wanted, essentially, quite male-coded behaviour, who just look absolutely fabulous, don't they? And then they encounter this couple in the desert. It's traditional all-American boyfriend and girlfriend, don't they? Who they encourage, they want to race them, etc. And the man says, "Oh, I don't race for competitiveness. I race because I enjoy it." And they're kind of deriding him. What kind of a man are you who doesn't want to compete and everything? And it emerges into this car chase, and then they kill this guy.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah. Vala does, the leader. The fights in this are brutal.
Yeah.
And again, I was thinking, imagine watching this, and as we talked about what women were allowed to do in cinema, this is, quite incredible. In the UK, we've had 2 years of Honor Blackman as Cathy Gale in The Avengers doing this, and again, which was hugely groundbreaking in the UK. At this point, Diana Riggs just started doing it as Emma Peel, but the fights in this are really brutal. And as you say, Tony, who's the all-American boy, and his girlfriend, she represents a very different kind of femininity and womanhood. And I thought the film was interesting in the different representations of womanhood that this film offered and what happens to them. But yeah, the fact that she just kills him and they're done with it.
Yes.
It's kind of jaw-dropping, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is brutal. She's proper fucking laying into this. A fight at the end as well, where it looks rough, it's physical, you can get a sense of the violence of it. I was quite blown away.
And it's interesting because you could see this as kind of sexualization of these women, you know, because the man was, it felt like a fairly equal fight, and a fight to the death. One of these people is going to die, but the woman's victorious. So the woman is getting beaten and punched, which, if you look at it on the surface, could represent a male fantasy of violence against a woman. But the woman's victorious in the end. She comes on and literally just kills him, doesn't have any qualms about it, doesn't feel guilt about it. It was kind of like he needed to die. And then they take the young girl hostage. Now in the film, well, the actress was only 16 and she's in her bikini the whole time. So again, make what you will of that. And then they escape, don't they? And they see a man being carried to his car when they go and get petrol by this hunk of a man. And it turns out that this hunk of a man is the guy's son, and the guy was paralysed. But he'd got a lot of money holed up in his ranch, so the girls spot an opportunity and go to the ranch, don't they? Which is where the majority of the rest of the film is set.
And I like the fact that the women are allowed to leer and be lascivious towards the male characters in this film, just like the men were at the start of the movie. So Billy, the blonde one, she fancies the hunk of a son, who instantly, his name is the vegetable. He's not named in the script, he's just called the vegetable because he's obviously got learning difficulties, hasn't he?
Yeah.
That's very problematic.
Very problematic, but...
And we are so basic.
We're so basic, but this man is just a vision of male beauty
oh my God,
to behold.
He's so hot. He's so hot.
So distracted by him.
I mean, I'm not surprised Billy's lost an after him because I'm like, I fucking would as well, to be honest.
I mean, just to paint a visual picture, he's a stereotypical corn-fed American farm-raised guy, isn't he?
Yeah, muscles.
Tanned.
Just, yeah, blonde.
Oh, God. Dear, we are so basic. But hey, we're still human.
We're only human.
Only human.
Let's have a bit of fun in it, girls.
Have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But he's there, and I mean, I don't know if now's a good time to talk about how the representation of males in this movie, but the males are all portrayed as relatively weak compared to the women.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Russ Meyer, the director, and his opinion on this and his reasons for it. But for all these comments and critiques about this being exploiting women, for me, it was kind of turned on its head because the women are the strong ones. They dress how they want to dress. And the men are the ones that are being exploited in this movie by the women.
And they're being seduced in ways to get the better of them.
They all meet grisly ends.
Yeah, they do. They do. They really do. Yeah.
And what was highlighted, you know, by commentators of this film is that the women are on the surface unlikable because they are unapologetic, and that is threatening to a lot of men, isn't it? That women are allowed to behave exactly how they want, use their sexual wiles to get what they want, kill, and do not give a fuck about it.
Absolutely. They do not give a fuck about it. I love them for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very queer-coded, this film, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of like how all gay men want to behave, really.
Yeah, really.
And that's a gross generalisation, but...
It's true. Can we talk about the fashions in this film, specifically the boots? They're all wearing kind of calf-length boots, and these boots are doing something very specific at this particular point in time. Because women wearing boots such as these, which were traditionally masculine, is again playing with gender expectations. Again, I'm going to refer back to Cathy Gale in The Avengers, who in 1962, immediately, there's no other woman like her on British TV. She's dressed in leather trousers, and she wears boots which are calf length, knee length, sometimes even thigh length. But these are doing something very specific. They're becoming mainstream. Patrick Macnee and Honor Blackman released a single called Kinky Boots, you know, and boots exploded into the popular consciousness and fashion. You can trace the history of boots. It's really interesting. If you think about the principal boy in a panto, they invariably have thigh-length boots. And that goes right back to the 17th century when there was a thing called breeches rolls, when women would dress as men and become the big stars of the time because they're wearing masculine clothes. And you can trace a through line all the way to boots exploding in a way like this in the early 60s. Carnaby Street and swinging London is where it kind of really cements itself. Fashion photography is starting to really lean on this. There's also a hint of S&M about the whole thing, the leather subculture, specifically in Britain, which is often associated with the upper classes, the establishment men who like to be whipped and tied up by a dominatrix. The dominatrix hasn't quite entered into the public consciousness yet, but very much subversive in underground magazines and stuff. You'd get images. So these boots are all riffing on this. So much so that, think of Nancy Sinatra, these boots are made for walking. That comes out as, I can't remember, it comes out, I think it's 65, 66. But again, just shows that these boots are a big thing. They're seen as assertive, slightly taboo, masculine wear, repurposed for women. The song These Boots Are Made for Walking gives Nancy Sinatra the power in that song. She's got this kind of cool, detached way. The lyrics she sings are a threat. They're not her going, oh my God, my boyfriend messed with me. She's like, don't fuck with me, bitch. You know? Her boots are not cute accessories, they're weapons in her hands. She's walking, she's either walking out or she's trampling over, you know. So, and if you look at Nancy Sinatra's performances of that song, the video, all her backing dancers have got kinky boots on. They're kicking their legs up. It's all about the boots. So we look at it today and just think these boots are just very 60s, but they're absolutely revolutionary.
Wow.
And these girls in this movie, these women in this movie, these boots are being used to reclaim this masculine power, which women all over the kind of Western world are starting to do at this point as these boots become such a huge part of 60s fashion.
And I suppose because of the discovery of new textiles and the cheapness of materials probably contributed to that explosion of these boots as well.
Yeah, well, I think of all the PVC you can start to get at this point, the neoprene and stuff, you know, absolutely, you know,
Well, that's interesting. I'd never thought of that. Do you know what? I didn't even look at their boots.
Wow, gosh. You see, a lot of audience would have been looking at the boots thinking, you know, again, riffing on the kind of women, strong, dominating men, S&M vibe, S&M-E, S&M adjacent, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not just for wearing and they're not just for walking. They're giving a strong message to the viewer.
Right. Can we talk about Russ Meyer a little bit?
Yes, please.
Mind if I jump forward?
No, do it.
So,
do it.
Yeah, so Russ Meyer was kind of a controversial figure, for, a pioneer film director. You know, it's kind of like an independent cinema maker. He started off in World War II as a army combat cameraman. So he saw a lot of things in World War II, and he said it was the most important experience of my life, and he credits the army with teaching him speed, discipline, and decisiveness. Now, if you look at this movie, it's very stylistically shot, very artistic, some of the shots set up, but it's very sparing in its use of shots. And he said that combat camera work trained him to work fast and efficiently, and on his films, he openly preferred hiring World War II veterans because he trusted them to get the job done. Because if you're on a low-budget film, there's no time for fanning around. And he almost kind of like favoured this guerrilla style of filming where you would all rock up, you'd get the shot lit and shoot it and then all bugger off again. And even the actors in the film were encouraged to, okay, so that sandbag needs lifting, this dolly track needs lifting, let's all muck in and do it together. He was very kind of regimented in that respect. So it's a really interesting way of working. There's no like multi-million-pound budget to do stuff, but there's no, let's take 5 months in the mountains of Salzburg to, you know, let's see what we get. See what we get in the day. It's like, no, we go in, we need this shot, this shot, this shot. Let's go in and fuck off and do it. So it's very militarised in his way.
A bit like guerrilla filming, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of like guerrilla filming. Yeah. So there's been a lot of critical analysis of this film, you know, from various things, from feminists, from, you know, from all sides of the coin, the critical coin. But he rejected symbolic or psychological interpretations of his films, saying that critics read too much into it, and insisting his work was about energy and movement and not meaning. It was all about what was up on screen. You know, don't read too much into it. This is what I've done. And then, speaking about Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill, Mayer explains that he centred the film on dominant women because they were more interesting to look at and dramatically effective. He repeatedly stated that men were often weaker than women, describing men as more fragile and less resilient under pressure. And this kind of leans back into his World War II experiences. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting in the story that the men are the dominated ones, are seen as the weaker characters, because that's how he viewed men in real life and women. So he obviously celebrated women. So you can say, for all you can say about exploitation of the women, and it might be, but this film is just more than what it says on the surface. There's a lot of subversion there, isn't there? And there's a lot of contradictory arguments about what this film could be, which makes it really interesting.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and it does chime in with the rise of feminism, which is starting to happen, second wave feminism, which is starting to happen in the States especially. Now, as you've said, he was never political and he was never a feminist at all. And he said, as you say, he rejects the idea of making messages with his movies. They're just things to be, you know, watched and enjoyed. But it chimes in with the movement which is happening around him, which also makes it super interesting. So 1963, Betty Friedan publishes The Feminine Mystique in America, which blows people's minds because for the first time, the problems of being a woman, like we talked about, the career options you have, the expectations you have, the societal norms you're expected to ascribe to, the fact that women in suburbia are losing their fucking minds because they've got nothing to do apart from take Valiums all day. It gives a name to these problems suddenly. And it's argued that it's the kickstart of feminism as we know it today. So his movie is coming out at the same time women are starting to have conversations among themselves about what it means to be a woman and what you're not allowed to do or what options are unavailable to you because you're a woman. I mean, Feminine Mystique, you can see its influence. Women's magazines start to change their tones about this point. College attendance among women surges. Career ambitions suddenly become defensible in America, remember, and we talked about how in Britain it doesn't really scratch the surface yet, but we start to see independent female characters more and more, and so unwittingly or not, Russ Meyer is making a feminist movie, even though he doesn't realise he's making a feminist movie or sets out to make a feminist movie, but it chimes absolutely with what is happening, you know, in the wider culture of womanhood in the States, which puts it at a kind of pressure point that makes it super interesting as well. You know, adds another dimension to it. That's
interesting. It's just kind of, you know, there are moments in kind of pop culture history and what's going on in politics, etc., where they kind of fuse and merge to create this kind of, you know, it accelerates the debate and accelerates culture as a whole. This kind of seems one of them, like what could be seen as a clash of cultures from both sides, opposite sides of the political spectrum, kind of merged together, even though it wasn't intended to. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And what we start to see is a rising kind of female anger, which is no longer being labelled as hysterical or emotional, but actually justified. And I love the sense, you get the sense of this female rage in this movie. When Lala's beating the shit out of Tony, I mean, as you said, as gay men, we're like, come on,
Yeah.
love, which is terrible. But there it is, you know. And Mayer's movies often feature women who dominate men, unapologetic female aggression, and men are disposable, and often feature sex which is not in a marriage or a loving relationship, you know. So he's riffing on feminism's critique of male authority without meaning to.
Yeah, because I mean, if you see Russ Meyer, he said he's not a feminist, you know, and it's like you say, it's open to interpretation what you think about my films. It's not, you know, it's not that deep, basically. Working with Russ Meyer was quite tricky.
Was it?
Sometimes, by various accounts. So the actor Charles Napier, who appeared in 5 of Mayer's films, said that working with Russ Meyer was like being in the first wave landing in Normandy during World War II.
God. Does he elaborate why?
He does, well, he might do, but Russ Meyer probably beat him up at that point. Mayer's directorial style and the rules he imposed on the cast and crew caused clashes with his equally strong-willed star, Tura Satana, who played Vala. Yeah, so there was a clash between them as well.
Right.
And there was also friction between Susan Bernard and the director. Now, Susan Bernard played the young girl who was kidnapped, the 16-year-old, and primarily it's stated... I mean, this is all film folklore, so you don't know. You can take it with a pinch of salt if you want. But because she was only 16, running around in a bikini all the time, her mum was on set all the time, you know, because if you're 16, you need a chaperone. Bernard said in interviews that she was truly scared of Satana Vala.
Not surprised.
Yeah. And some have commented that maybe contributed to her performance as the frightened kidnapping victim, because she does walk around this film and run around this film shit scared of all the women, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Well, she gets drugged.
Yeah, she does. She does.
Bunked in the boot of a
knock
car.
Her out. Yeah, knock her out. I mean, the films often... I hadn't realised how much dialogue is commented on, because it is just fucking great. I've picked some choice lines, if you don't mind. We don't like nothing soft. Everything we touch is hard, you know. Someone describes Vala like a velvet glove cast in iron. They make the mafia look like brownies, somebody says. And there's a great exchange when, I can't remember who it says to one out of the 3, she says, "You're a long time coming." The other one says, "You're telling me." You know, so again, this kind of sexuality they're allowed to have, which is expressed in these dialogue. Sounds like my motor's being revved up, which makes twice today. Your old man's been blasted out his wheels, and your king-size brother's been twisted like a pretzel. Just, oh my God, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
What I really enjoyed about it was these women were portrayed as doing hideous things to people, but having real fun doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of infectious, isn't it?
Yeah. But do you know what I felt was a little bit betraying of this whole thing? Now, this might have just been a picture that we've built up in our heads, which is what Russ Meyer is saying. It's not too deep, but, you know, interpret it how you will. I never had any kind of aims to do it, but what I found was really disappointing is that Vala dies at the end.
Yeah, me too.
It's like you've seen this powerful woman all the way through, but ultimately a woman who is unapologetic, who's a murderer, who is sexy, who has sexual agency, who uses men as playthings, has to die at the end.
Punished, isn't she? Which shows you that Russ Meyer's not making a feminist movie, you know. You're right, absolutely. I wanted I wanted us to just kill him and then drive off into the sunset. But well, look at Thelma and Louise for another kind of adjacent movie. You know, they're not allowed to get away with it at the end, are they? Oh my God, can't talk about that.
Can't talk about it.
So this film is often seen as problematic because the women are fetishized for male gaze. Well, they certainly are, but at the same time, the men in it are being shown as disposable, dominated. The violence is eroticized, and the criticism of it, which I mean, if it's erotic because you can see Vala's push-up boobs while she's beating the shit out of somebody, fair enough. But it never struck me as particularly erotic or eroticised. I thought it was brutal.
I thought, well, it was stylistic as well.
Yeah.
But that's what a man might say.
Yes. And their power is tied to cruelty rather than liberation. And I think that's a load of bollocks as well, because men are allowed to be cruel in movies and no one says a fucking word. You know what I mean? So I'd like to push back a bit and just talk about the feminist reading that happened later of this movie, if I may. So as we said, some critics have said that the women are still fetishized, the power is framed for male pleasure, and violence and cruelty undermine female liberation. Whereas others, including later feminist film scholars, have said that Russ Meyer blows up passive femininity with this movie. He makes female rage visible, that Betty Friedan talks about, and again, unwittingly, unfortunately. And his women act. They're not just there to exist, you know, in a way that the men in this movie are. So these gender roles are reversed completely. And if anything, I think this movie is a really interesting time capsule of 1960s male anxiety, the fear of female autonomy, the breakdown of post-war masculinity, which we talk about is happening in Britain as well as in America. And it talks about the violence. It shows this violence which is simmering just underneath the surface in America, I think. So I think it feels more prophetic, you know, rather than outdated, which is why it still has a lot of debate garnered around it today, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, it felt fresh. It felt modern.
Yeah, it did.
You know,
really did.
And I thought the soundtrack was great as well. I have to just mention that.
Fucking great. The fact, this final song at the end. Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Okay, so shall we talk about Faster Pussycat Kill Kill's influence on wider pop culture, because there's been a huge amount of references to this that perhaps our guests, if they haven't seen Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, won't even realise that actually it's a direct reference to this film. So yes, we can talk about, shall we talk about movies?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Quentin Tarantino, Kel Surprise, in a nice way, I mean, has said that he's been really influenced by Mayer's work. Death Proof, one of his films, is heavily references thematically and stylistically, and also Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2.
Of course.
You know, there's the bride, well, she's on a mission, obviously, so there's a sense that the bride has got a purpose and she's doing it for revenge, but she's still fucking kick-ass. Even her outfit, you know, even though it's kind of updated, is very, you know, she's a very sexual character, but still can kill with impunity.
Yes. Yeah.
And then John Waters has said that, you know, Mayer has been a huge influence on him as well. Riot Girl aesthetics. Right. Punk and drag culture references it quite a lot. And then music videos as well. I mean, obviously fashion editorials in magazines and stuff dedicate themselves. There's a photo shoot of Madonna and Katy Perry. She's dressed up as Vala, straddling Katy Perry. There's whips and there's corsets and boots, as you say. But also, Madonna has explicitly cited Mayer as an influence. Express Yourself video, that, I mean, even though that's kind of directly linked to, aesthetically, to Fritz Lang and Metropolis and everything, but it is all about a woman being in power of men being weak and used as playthings to this suited and booted Madonna. And also the Human Nature video as well.
Oh, yes.
For Madonna, you know, it's stagic and unapologetic defiance really align with the aggressive femininity in Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. Telephone, Lady Gaga and Beyonce. Do you remember the bust out of prison,
of course,
go on a killing spree in the really fast car? That's a direct reference. And also, believe it or not, the Spice Girls. Yeah,
I mean, the one that immediately springs to mind is Say You'll Be There, of course. The leather outfits in the desert.
Shot in a desert, very similar. It's kind of like salt flat desert, you know. I mean, Faster Pussycat was primarily filmed in Mojave Desert and around the deserts of California, Where Was Say You Be There filmed as well.
Was
There's
it?
fast cars there, and they're all dressed up in these kind of, but I mean, they're more sexy playful than sexy aggressive.
Yes, yeah, but the opening of it has them as alter egos, doesn't it? Who are like karate chopping and, all I'm going to say, Dave, is
If you put two and two together, you will see what our friendship is for.
that's it.
Thank
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Thank you, Jerry, for that little cameo there.
Special guest, Jerry.
Special
Just
guest?
popped in.
Did
Yeah,
she?
it's just popped in.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Thanks,
nice.
Jerry.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jerry. Bye.
See you later.
Yeah. Okay, Janet Jackson also, there was a song called You Want This, 1993, made a real direct reference to Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. I'm a
Right.
bit of a Janet
I
fan.
know, I don't think I've seen that video. We'll have to watch these later on.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, we will. I mean, I've got nothing more to say about it. Have you?
No, not really.
Yeah. Here's a question for listeners. Please go and watch this. We urge. It's on YouTube.
We'll put a link in our show notes.
It's great.
You've got no excuse.
It's really great. But can a film, something to think about, can a film exploit women while simultaneously admiring their power?
Interesting.
About that. So, with all that being said, R. David,
Yes.
what would you give this out of 10?
I would give it 7.5 corn-fed hunks out of 10.
Right.
Chance to be a fine thing.
I'm going to give it 8 pneumatic boobs out of 10.
Right.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. So good. That was Faster Pussycat Kill. I mean, it's camp.
It's campus tits.
It's just great.
I mean, you can see direct references to drag race and drag culture, can't you? In these three women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So next week, kind of keeping this theme, I guess, of strong, dominating women. It's International Women's Day next week as well, Dave. So we're doing something very special. We are going back to 1980. That's pretending it's 2012. And we're going to explore a world ruled by women.
Yeah.
We're looking at the Two Ronnies miniseries, The Worm That Turned. I mean, it's got Diana Dawes, it's got PVC-clad Gestapo troopers, and it's got the Two Ronnies in frocks. What not to love?
Now, I always thought the Two Ronnies were a little bit hit and miss. It wasn't really up my strata, but I have to say The Worm That Turned, it was kind of like a mini-series set over several episodes, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 6 little 10-minute episodes.
Yeah, so we're going to compile them all into one and just watch the whole thing through. We'll put a Gazer homework section up on our show notes.
Yes.
And from what I remember, I haven't seen it for years and years and years, but it's a humdinger, isn't it?
It's a
and it
humdinger.
celebrates women in all their form, as we have just done.
Yes, indeed.
Because we love women.
We
don't
do.
We?
We do.
We just like their fiddly bits.
To be fair, that's the nub of it, isn't it?
Oh, you just said nub. But we love you. We love you all.
We do. In the meantime, do like and subscribe to our socials at Podcast Gaze. Talk about our YouTube channel, Dave.
Yes, our YouTube channel is up there at Podcast Gaze. It's actually called the Gaze channel, but just at Podcast Gaze, or just search for the Problematic Gaze. I will put a link to our YouTube as well. Please subscribe without sounding too desperate and beggy.
Please.
But please do it.
Please do it, for Dave's sake. If you imagine a face like a little Victorian orphan, that's the face he's pulling now, ladies and gentlemen. So please, thank you. Right, with all that being said, I'm off to get me kinky boots on and batter the shit out of an all-American boy. What are you going to do?
I'm going to come and watch.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. Au reservoir.
Au reservoir.
Right, get them boots on.
Yeah.